One of the tools developed for making sure that the improvements to help increase flow happen systematically was how small and meaningful improvements were put into place. The word Kaizen is very commonly used when we hear a company trying to implement lean manufacturing practices. I would like to stress, from the point of view made by Taiichi Ohno himself, that how a company needs to think to increase effectiveness or to be able to understand the Kaizen word in itself. He says the very reason or the purpose was to make the equipment give better output. The idea was to make things better with the current equipment or to use the equipment more effectively. This was the initial idea, and this initial idea contributed indirectly or directly to the flow. What does it mean to improve the effectiveness of the equipment or to use the equipment more effectively? Either it produced more in the same time, or it required less of maintenance, or some way or the other, by the skill use, the same equipment could do multiple tasks. The concept started with this, and this means that Kaizen was used constantly to make sure that we were able to support the first concept of flow more effectively. However, this continual improvement process, as it is commonly known as, got implemented in various forms. One of the common or the most common application we see is that by doing this Kaizen, we saved so much of cost. And many companies go around focusing and trying to celebrate the amount of money they have saved by doing Kaizens. This is a great departure from what was the initial intent of Kaizen. Before and after. This is before Kaizen, this is after Kaizen. It is the most diluted form of the true intent of Kaizen. Improvement is the core driving factor in Kaizen, but improvement with what aim? The aim is to improve the flow of material. Cleanliness is not improvement. If you organize yourself better, it is an improvement, but it doesn't increase the flow. It is just to make you fit enough to operate better. Then the Kaizens are classified. The Kaizens could be classified as manual Kaizen, machine Kaizen, and process Kaizen. Manual Kaizen is how a man, while operating itself, uses the equipment in a better way. Machine Kaizen is you have done some modifications on the machine, so now that it performs the job much better. And the process Kaizen is the engineering people have actually incorporated the learnings from your other Kaizens and got a new machine to do the process better. Now, however, the wisdom lies in sequencing these three Kaizens. Very often, the machines which have been installed new land up giving the same benefit, or maybe just 10%, 20% better benefit than the previous machines. And over a period of time, they are forgotten and they start performing at a level much below to what they actually can. Such investments in better machines are based on, sir, we are going to improve the process efficiency. Our processes will be more stable. So they have done process Kaizen. However, Taiichi Ohno has very clearly pointed out that there is a sequence to doing Kaizen. First is the manual Kaizen, then you do the machine Kaizen, and after you have exhausted both these options, invest in process Kaizen. And there is enough evidence to prove that people who have done machine Kaizen or manual Kaizen, even when they are put on to work with a modern and a new machine, they still tweak the new machine and improve the output. So if you get into this habit of doing Kaizen to save cost, the company does not finally realize the benefit of Kaizen. But if you get inside the habit of doing Kaizen for increasing the flow of material, the Kaizens have much better bottom line impact than any other way. This is what was the true intent of Kaizen in the Toyota production system. It has taken many new forms, many derivatives, and the fact is most of the executives have now put Kaizen or are using Kaizen as a cost saving tool. Or the best they have done is used it as a motivation tool. All this limits the great power Kaizen has, because the intention of Kaizen is to make your equipment more effective so that the flow of product and equipment or final product and component within the premises of a manufacturing unit be faster. Ohno did not spend time on setup changes to reduce cost. He did not spend time on improving quality so that it could cost less. He didn't even squeeze the suppliers for lesser price. Neither did he reduce the salaries of the employees. All these goes to say that Ohno was primarily focused on improving flow through the system rather than be cost focused. Most of the initiatives done by other companies who are trying to copy Toyota have one difference, that most of these initiatives are trying to save cost. People have understood the tools that Ohno developed or the Toyota production system developed, but when they start implementing it for themselves, they focus it from the point of view of reducing cost. And we know that this has got an upper limit. They very soon reach a place where the diminishing returns reduce their initiatives of cost reduction to lip service. Let's go back and see how Ohno implemented the flow concept or the 4 principles of flow. Number 1, he has said that all he was focusing on was trying to reduce the time taken between when the customer placed an order on them and they collected cash from him, which is nothing but lead time. Number two, the mechanism to limit overproduction. His tool for this was Kanban system. Kanban system not only limited production but also was used to communicate when to do a setup change. Number three, abolish local efficiencies. Yes, all the setup change concepts were changed not because they cost money, but because they hindered the flow of material. And Toyota today has been able to make setup changes insignificant for any valuable discussion. Number four, develop a focusing mechanism on where to focus improvement. Kanban system for Toyota gave him this opportunity where to focus also. So in true sense, Ohno took Ford's concept of flow and applied it in an environment where few assumptions were unique and not the same. It just goes to prove that Taiichi Ohno applied the concepts of flow in his environment and came up with an application which we all know as the Toyota production system. But let us go further and explore what were the unique assumptions in which Toyota production system was able to survive. Many people, or very often, there is a very thin line between Toyota production system and sometimes very loosely called the Japanese production system. Now the Japanese production system is naturally an industrial production system, but when we talk about Toyota's success in Japan, there is feeling inside us to think that this efficient production system should have been adopted or used by practically everybody in Japan. When we talk about Toyota's success in Japan, there is feeling inside us to think that this efficient production system should have been adopted or used by practically everybody in Japan. However, it's a well-known fact that only 20% of the industries in Japan use Toyota production system, and there have been documented incidences of many companies failing to implement Toyota production system. Toyota has been very open about its production system, and they have gone about creating or dissipating this knowledge to the world by having training centers or allowing people to visit. So one can't say that the knowledge of production system was not available and hence the implementation failed. There was enough knowledge in the market. Toyota opened its doors. It created centers of excellence where not only others but its own suppliers could learn something from what Toyota did or what its systems are meant to do. However, even under such conditions, there have been failures when people try to implement this system for themselves. This just goes to point in a direction that the flow concepts applied based on an environment suitable to Toyota resulted in Toyota's production system. Let us explore what are these conditions, boundary conditions under which the Toyota system will succeed, and when this system has got high chances of failure. Ohno clearly demonstrates to us a very important idea, that concepts are generic, and when applied under an assumption of an environment, it turns into an application. That means the concepts of flow, when applied under the assumptions of the manufacturing constraints in Toyota, produced an application called Toyota production system. One should not be disappointed when you take this application and try and implement in an environment where the assumptions of the environment are not valid. Many ideas have failed because people have transplanted those methods and subsystems from one environment to second. It is extremely important for us to validate and prove the assumptions which were used when an application was developed. Concepts are generic. Now, when you start using it under a set of environments to create a solution, an application results. So an application is a set of many solutions which are developed so that the generic concept gets implemented.